Today on MTG Unpacked, we're getting stuck into the new March of the Machine Commander deck, Call for Backup. So this is a red, green, white deck. That's the Naya color combo. And the commander here is Bright Palm Soul Awakener. So we'll take a look at that in a moment. So this looks like a creature and token deck. So we've got Planechase cards here, 10 Planechase cards. 100 card deck with 10 new cards, 10 double-sided tokens, planar die, foil etch, display commander, life wheel, deck box, strategy, insert, and reference card. Alright, so let's get to cracking. So these go for about $45 US a piece. And this is the fourth of the decks that we've looked at on the channel so far. So looking forward to it. So we've got a envelope here, we'll set that aside, and a deck box. What else? We've got the life wheel, reference, the deck itself, and there should be a dice here somewhere, it's hiding. Here we go, so let's take a look at this. So this is awesome. So we've got a planar die, I like the little sparkles on this one. So we've got a chaos there and planeswalker symbol. Alright, and then this, we have some dividers and punch-out cards. Lone Bright Palm, Spiritual Self-Help Secrets. So there's always a little pun on the cover there. Okay, so let's get into it. So we have Planechase cards in the envelope, along with a collector booster sample pack. So this will give you a bit of a taste of what's in the collector boosters. Let's get into it and see what we pull. So we have an ad card. We'll set that aside. Oh, this is nice. Ayara, First of Locthwain. So we've got like a Throne of Eldraine border there. That's pretty cool. And Timuret, Chosen from Death. Okay, so 2 foils. We haven't actually got 2 foils out of the others so far. And then the life wheel here going up to 40, counting down to 1. Alright, and let's take a look at the flyer here, see what this is all about. So we've got some rules here for Commander in case you're new to the format, along with some info about Planechase, how that works. And on the other side here, Bright Palm Soul Awakener. So some lore about the Fox Shaman here. So +1/+1 counters. Yep, that's pretty much what I was thinking. There are some abilities you can give them as well. So I think that's the backup mechanic. So we'll take a look at that shortly. And let's get into our Planechase cards. So these things are awesome. Oversized cards. We've got Planechase on the back here. And let's take a look at what we've got. So we've got Chaotic Ether. It's a phenomenon. When you encounter Chaotic Ether, each blank roll of the planar die is a chaos roll until a player planeswalks away from a plane. Then planeswalk away from this phenomenon. Next up, we've got Jund on the plane of Alara. Whenever a player casts a creature spell that's black, red, or green, it gains Devour 5. So as the creature enters battlefield, its controller may sacrifice any number of creatures. The creature enters battlefield with 5 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever chaos ensues, create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Alright. Hoping to see some goblins in this deck. We've got Bloodhill Bastion. Plane is Equilor. So if you know what set that is from, let me know in the comments. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, it gains double strike and haste until end of turn. And whenever chaos ensues, exile target non-token creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under your control. And next we have Karasha Foothills, the Plane of Mongsang. Okay, not familiar with that one either. Whenever a creature you control attacks a player for each other opponent, you may create a token that's a copy of that creature tapped and attacking that opponent. exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. And whenever chaos ensues, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. If you do, Karasha Foothills deals that much damage to target creature. And the next one we have here, Grove of the Dream Pods. So the plane is Fabison, another unfamiliar one. When you planeswalk to Grove of the Dream Pods, and at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Whenever chaos ensues, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. And next we have Megaflora Jungle Plane Gargantica. Okay, there's another new one to me. Each creature with mana value 2 or less gets +2/+2, and whenever chaos ensues, create a 1/1 green insect creature token with flying named Butterfly. Okay, that's fun. And Riptide Island, Plane Dominaria. When you planeswalk to Riptide Island and at the beginning of your upkeep, create 2 1/1 colorless Sliver creature tokens. Interesting. Whenever chaos ensues, slivers you control gain haste and get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of slivers you control. So I wonder if we'll have any other sliver stuff in here. The Great Airy on the plane of Tarkir, so I have heard of that one. When you planeswalk to the Great Airy and at the beginning of your upkeep, bolster 3. So that means choose a creature with the least toughness among creatures you control and put 3 +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever chaos ensues, choose up to 1 target creature you control and up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. Each of those creatures deals damage equal to its toughness to the other. And the Golden City of Arazka on the plane of Ixalan. So this has Ascend, so you might be familiar with that mechanic already. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the city's blessing for the rest of the game. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token, then draw a card if you have the city's blessing. And whenever chaos ensues, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. And the last one here, we have Tawashi on the plane of Kamigawa. Modified creatures you control have trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card. Equipment auras you control and counters are modifications. And whenever chaos ensues, distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures you control. Okay, so there are the awesome plane cards, Planechase cards. So let's get into it, and I think there's 5 reprints and 5 new ones. So we will dig through the deck here. The lands, I'll separate those out, something like that. And then there's also a thicker display commander here. So we'll take a peek at that one first. So we have Bright Palm Soul Awakener. So this one is foiled. You'll notice it's thicker than normal. So this is not something you're going to shuffle into your deck. Purely for display. But you do get a regular size one. So let's separate out the deck like so and take a closer look. So we have Bright Palm Soul Awakener. It's a mythic. Legendary creature Fox Shaman 4/3 for 4 with backup 1. So when this creature enters battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If that's another creature, it gains the following ability until end of turn. Whenever this creature attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature. That creature can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less this turn. So that seems like it could get pretty crazy. And the next one here, we've got Shalai and Hala, another mythic legendary creature, Angel Elf, 3/3 for 4 with flying and vigilance. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, Shalai and Hala deals that much damage to target opponent. And next, we've seen this in all of the decks so far, we've got Command Tower. It's a land, tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Commander Sphere, artifact for 3, tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity, and if you sacrifice it, you get to draw a card. Cultivate, sorcery for 3, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle. Evolving Wilds. We've seen this one as well. It's a land, tap, sack it, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. And Fertilid, creature elemental 0/0 for 3. It enters battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it, and for 1 and a green, remove a +1/+1 counter from it. Target player searches their library for a basic land card, puts it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffles. And Fractured Power Stone, we've seen this a bunch of times as well. Artifact for 2, tap for colorless or tap, roll the planar die, activate only as a sorcery. And Kadama's Reach, this is a nice reprint. Sorcery Arcane for 3, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put one onto the battlefield tapped, and the other into your hand, then shuffle. And Path of Ancestry, its land enters tapped, tap for adding 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. And when that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. And Pride Malkin, creature cat 2/1 for 3. When it enters battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample. Okay, so the idea is you're spreading trample across multiple creatures. We've got Return to Nature, instant for 2, choose 1, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard. And Terramorphic Expanse, we've seen this one before as well. Tap, sack it, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Wood Elves, creature elf scout 1/1 for 3. When it enters battlefield, search your library for a forest card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And Abzan Battle Priest, creature human cleric 3/2 for 4 with Outlast for a single white. So you pay that, tap, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, Outlast only as a sorcery. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has lifelink. Okay, so you're just giving your creatures a whole bunch of other abilities, so that's cool. Abzan Falconer 2/3 for 3 with Outlast for a white. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying. Okay, so we've got flying and lifelink. What else? Our Haru Solemn Ritualist, legendary creature human monk 3/3 for 5. When it enters battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 other target creatures. Whenever a non-token creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. And it also has partner, so you can have 2 commanders if both have partner. And Arcane Signet, we've seen this one a bunch of times as well, has it's an artifact for 2 with add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity when you tap it. Armorcraft Judge, creature elf artificer 3/3 for 4. When it enters battlefield, draw a card for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. And Brawn, creature incarnation 3/3 for 4 with trample. As long as it's in your graveyard and you control a forest, creatures you control have trample. Bretagard Stronghold, it's a land, enters tap, tap for green and 2 white, tap, sack it. You get to put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures you control. They gain vigilance and lifelink until end of turn, activate only as a sorcery. Conclave Mentor, creature centaur cleric 2/2 for 2. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a creature you control, that many +1/+1 counters are put on that creature instead. When Conclave Mentor dies, you gain life equal to its power. So again, boosting the counters. We've got Constable of the Realm 3/3 for 5 with Renown 2. So when this creature deals combat damage to a player, if it isn't renowned, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it and it becomes renowned. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Constable of the Realm, exile up to 1 other target non-land permanent until Constable of the Realm leaves the battlefield. And Elite Scale Guard, creature human soldier 2/3 for 5. When it enters battlefield, bolster 2. So that means choose a creature with the least toughness among creatures you control and put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it attacks, tap target creature defending player controls. Enduring Scale Lord, creature dragon 4/4 for 6 with flying. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on another creature you control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Enduring Scale Lord. Nice. Falconwrath Exterminator, creature vampire archer 1/1 for 2. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And for 2 and a red, it deals damage to target creature equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on Falconwrath Exterminator. Field of Ruin, a land, tap for colorless for 2, tap, sack it. Destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. Each player searches their library for a basic land card, puts it onto the battlefield, then shuffles. And Generous Gift, instant for 3, destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature token. Good Fortune Unicorn, creature unicorn 2/2 for 3. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. And Hamza, Guardian of Arishan, legendary creature, elephant warrior, 5/5 for 6. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. And Death Greeter's Champion, creature human warrior, 2/1 for 3 with dash, 3 and a red. So you can cast the spell for its dash cost. If you do, it gains haste, and it's returned from the battlefield to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. And this one has backup 1, so we learned about that earlier. And the ability here is Double Strike. Next up, we've got Uncivil Unrest, enchantment for 5. Non-token creatures you control have Riot. They enter the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. And if a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage instead. Nice. And we've seen this one in the other decks as well. Ichor Elixir, artifact for 4. If you would roll 1 or more planar dice, instead roll that many planar dice +1 and ignore 1. Tap for 2 colorless. Mirror Style Master, creature human warrior, 3/3 for 6 with backup 1. And the ability here, whenever this creature attacks, for each attacking modified creature you control, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that creature. Exile those tokens at end of combat. And Guardian Scale Lord, creature dragon, 3/4 for 5 with backup 1. Has flying. Whenever this creature attacks, return target non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is this creature's power. An Emergent Woodworm, that looks awesome. Creature worm, 4/4 for 7 with backup 3. So whenever this creature attacks, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is its power. You may put a permanent card with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And Path of the Pyromancer. That's a sorcery for 5. Discard all the cards in your hand. Add red for each card discarded this way, then draw that many cards +1. It has Will of the Planeswalkers. Starting with you, each player votes for Planeswalk or Chaos. If Planeswalk gets more votes, Planeswalk. If Chaos gets more votes, or the vote is tied, Chaos ensues. And Conclave Sledge Captain, creature elephant soldier, 4/4 for 6 with, what is this? Backup 1, backup 1, backup 1. Okay, so each backup ability triggers separately. What? It has Trample. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. So I can see this might be getting a little complicated to keep track of. We've got Colonian Hydra. It's a creature Hydra 0/0 for 5 with Trample. It enters battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever it attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Next up, we've got MacLeod the Lunarch. It's a mythic legendary creature, human cleric 0/0 for X and a white. It enters battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. And if you tap, put a +1/+1 counter on MacLeod, or tap, remove a +1/+1 counter from it. You get to put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Alright, so we're about halfway through the deck here. What else do we have? We have Canopy Vista. So it's a land, forest, plains, tap for green or white, enters battlefield tapped, unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Champion of Lambholt, creature human warrior 1/1 for 3. Creatures with power less than Champion of Lambholt's power can't block creatures you control. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Champion of Lamholt. Cinderglade, tap for red or green, enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Dramoka's Command, instant for 2, choose 2, prevent all damage, target instant or sorcery spell would deal this turn. Target player sacrifices an enchantment, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, or target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. An Exotic Orchard, a land, tap to add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. Flame Rush Rider, creature human warrior 3/3 for 5. Whenever it attacks, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature, and that's tapped and attacking. Exile the token at end of combat, and this one has dash for 2 and 2 reds, so we learned about that earlier. Flame Shadow Conjuring, enchantment for 4. Whenever a non-token creature enters battlefield under your control, you may pay red. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature. That token gains haste, exile it at the beginning of the next end step. Forgotten Ancient, creature elemental 0/3 for 4. Whenever a player casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Forgotten Ancient. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of +1/+1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. And Fortified Village, a land, as it enters battlefield, you may reveal a forest or plains card from your hand. If you don't, it enters battlefield tap for green or white. Fury Calm Snarl, as it enters battlefield, you may reveal a mountain or plains card from your hand. If you don't, it enters battlefield tap for red or white. And Game Trail, so this is the same deal with mountains or forests, tap for red or green. Gavany Township, a land, tap for colorless for 2 green and white, tap, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So there's the counter stuff again. Genesis Hydra, creature plant Hydra 0/0 for X and 2 green. When you cast a spell, reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put a non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield, then shuffle the rest into your library. Genesis Hydra enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. And Jaya Sage, creature elf druid 1/2 for 2 with evolve. So whenever a creature enters battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. And tap to add green for each +1/+1 counter on Jaya Sage. And we've got a split card here, Heaven and Earth. So Heaven is an instant for X and a green. It deals X damage to each creature with flying. Earth is a sorcery for X and 2 red, has Aftermath. So you cast the spell only from your graveyard, then exile it. Earth deals X damage to each creature without flying. And next we have High Sentinels of Arishan. Creature bird soldier 3/4 for 4 with flying. It gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. For 3 and a white, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And Incubation Druid, creature elf druid 0/2 for 2. Tap to add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. And if Incubation Druid has a +1/+1 counter on it, add 3 mana of that type instead. And for 3 and 2 green, adapt 3. So if this creature has no +1/+1 counters on it, put 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Inscription of Abundance, instant for 1 and a green, has kicker for 2 and a green. Choose 1. If this spell was kicked, choose any number instead. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature, or target player gains X life, where X is the greatest power among creatures they control, or target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Ion Storm, enchantment for 3. For 1 and a red, remove a +1/+1 counter or a charge counter from a permanent you control. Ion Storm deals 2 damage to any target. And Kessig Wolf Run, it's a land, tap for colorless for X, red and green. Tap, target creature gets +X, +0 and gains trample until end of turn. Cranko, 10 Street Kingpin. Is this some new artwork? It looks like it. Legendary creature, Goblin, 1/2 for 3. Whenever Cranko attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it, then create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to Cranko's power. Nice one. And Mana Gorger Hydra, creature Hydra, 1/1 for 3. With trample, whenever a player casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Mana Gorger Hydra. And Mossfire Valley, it's a land for 1 tap, add red and green. Mosswort Bridge, another land here, Hideaway 4. So when this land enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, and put the rest on the bottom in a random order. It enters the battlefield, tap for green. For green tap, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if creatures you control have total power 10 or greater. And Restoration Angel, creature angel, 3/4 for 4 with flash on flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-angel creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. We've got Rishkar Pima Renegade, 2/2 for 3. It's a legendary creature, Elf Druid. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Each creature you control with a counter on it has tap to add green mana. And Semester's End, instant for 4. Exile any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers you control at the beginning of the next end step. Return each of them to the battlefield under its owner's control. Each of them enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker. Strionic Resonator, artifact for 2. For 2 tap, copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. And a land here, Sungrass Prairie, for 1 tap, add green and white mana. Sunscorch Regent, creature dragon, 4/3 for 5 with flying. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sunscorch Regent and you gain 1 life. Temple of Abandon, it's a land, enters tapped. When it enters battlefield, scry 1, tap for red or green. Temple of Plenty, same deal for green or white. And Temple of Triumph, same thing but red or white. Together Forever, enchantment for 2. When it enters battlefield, support 2. So put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. And for 1, choose target creature with a counter on it. When that creature dies this turn, return that card to its owner's hand. And Triskelion, artifact creature construct, 1/1 for 6. It enters battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Remove a +1/+1 counter from it. It deals 1 damage to any target. We've got Hindivines, instant for 3. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures with no +1/+1 counters on them. Inspiring Call, instant for 3. Draw a card for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Those creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. And Jungle Shrine, it's the land, enters tap for red, green or white. Juniper Order Ranger, I think we saw this in one of the other decks. Creature Human Knight Ranger, 2/4 for 5. Whenever another creature enters battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature and a +1/+1 counter on Juniper Order Ranger. Krosan Verge, enters tap for colorless for 2 taps, sack it. Search your library for a forest card and a plains card. Put them onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. And Llanowar Reborn, enters tap for green. Has Graft 1, so this land enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you may move a +1/+1 counter from this land onto it. Mindless Automaton, artifact creature construct, 0/0 for 4, enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. For 1, discard a card. You get to put a +1/+1 counter on Mindless Automaton. And if you remove 2 +1/+1 counters from it, draw a card. We got Rogue's Passage, land, tap for colorless for 4 tap. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Slurk, all ingesting, legendary creature ooze, 0/0 for 6. Enters battlefield with 5 +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever it or another creature you control dies, if it had a +1/+1 counter on it, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control that has a +1/+1 counter on it, has partner as well. And I was wondering when we'd come across this one. Soul Ring, artifact for 1, tap for 2, colorless. Swords to Plowshares, I've had this in a bunch of the other decks. Instant for a single white. Exile target creature its controller gains life equal to its power. And Temple of the False God, It's a land. Tap for 2 colorless. Activate only if you control 5 or more lands. Okay, so very wordy deck. If you don't like reading, you might not like this one. Let's see how many lands we've got here. So plains, we have 5 of those, and mountains, 2 of those. Okay, forests, 6 of those. Okay, so a bit of a strange mana base there. And we have a spirit token with flying, so 1/1, and on the other side, treasure token. If you tap, sack this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. And a spirit and treasure. We've got a 1/1 goblin, of course. Love the goblins. And a 1/1 sliver. And that reminds me, we didn't really see any other sliver stuff here, did we? So we've got a goblin and sliver. Another goblin and another sliver. Okay, another one. Yep. And a 3/3 elephant on the other side. We have the city's blessing. And a butterfly flying 1/1. Okay. And the city's blessing. Another butterfly flying and city's blessing. I think we're getting another one of the same thing. Yes. And parts of the turn. And popular Magic formats. And if you made it this far, leave a comment with the word Tawashi in it, because honestly, I would be very surprised if anyone watches this entire video. So this deck really doesn't look that exciting to me. A whole bunch of counter stuff. We see those nearly every year. They've done a whole bunch of them. So the difference here, you've got the backup mechanics. So that could get pretty crazy with those abilities triggering. But otherwise, this is probably one of my least favorite we've covered so far. So let me know in the comments what you think about this one. And stay tuned. We've got one more commander deck. We'll do that in the next day or so. Hope everyone's staying safe and healthy out there. Thanks for watching and have a great day.